that right close to my house. There's 24 of those raised beds just along the train tracks. A whole bunch of years ago, they planted all those windbreakers and basically sort of breaking off the railroad action. This was at the beginning of the summer, and it was maybe a month into the growing season. And it was just to show you that we're probably going to be seeing more and more of these in Montreal because it costs way too much to decontaminate soil. So arrondissements and municipalities are going to be investing more in this as opposed to decontaminating the soil and permitting folks to garden again, especially all the gardens that they closed last summer. So you'll be seeing more and more of these, and they're pretty awesome. Obviously, you're kind of limited, but this summer the idea that Steve and I had was just to experiment and look at some square foot gardening techniques, and essentially just harvest plant a lot, and not necessarily keep that much space, as you could see in between everything, no rows, and let it grow wild, let it have fun, let the magic happen, and see how the plants interacted. And it was very much an experiential garden, and we just wanted to see what would happen and what kind of aphids or what kind of beautiful, lovely insects, or not as beneficial insects, would come up. And it was a great experiment to let everything go wild. The Jerusalem artichokes grew super high and were really, really beautiful. And we did some companion planting, and I lived a whole bunch, pretty much the whole summer. I was eating a lot of kale every day, and it was definitely a really amazing experience to be so close to the garden. And even though it's not a garden in the ground, it's definitely a possibility for folks in the city. And I wanted to share just a few experiences, I guess, just to bring up like the permaculture aspect in terms of gardens and what they can be for us. Not only spaces that we plant in, but personally I had really intense spiritual connections to not only the plants in this garden, but the space, although it's really contaminated. It was a place for me to connect to the plant spirits and have really amazing discoveries that way, and it was a space for interesting spiritual connections also with Steve, because we were sharing the garden together. Definitely a really amazing space for kids to come. I tried to set up sort of an educational program every Tuesday night. It kind of didn't go so well because some of the older folks in the community said that it was, kind of lame for those kids to be learning about gardening, and they said that it was basically lame, and so the younger kids were like, oh well, I don't want to do this anymore because c'est fif and c'est pas cool. So that didn't work out as well, but it was definitely a really interesting experience to try to work that out and work that through. And gardens, they can be so much. Something as simple as that can provide so much for the community, and it was definitely a really awesome community space. There's some tensions in the garden because the folks running the gardens want to do a lot with the space, but the actual community council isn't as collaborative with everything that wants to be there. I also, in the spring, in the fall, I did a root cellar. I don't know if anybody's done little underground root cellars. Basically, with a lot of straw, you make kind of like there's different ways of doing it, but you can make like a big pile, dig deep, put a lot of straw all the way around, and some aeration through the middle. And last time I went to check, I did two, about like half a foot into the soil, and one of them was dug up by some dogs, but the other one is still there, and things didn't freeze, so that's pretty neat. And and also another form of gardening that we briefly mentioned last time is mushrooms. I didn't grow any mushrooms in the garden per se, but we had some here.
I'm going to show you. I got a picture.
Cool. We had some here on concrete. I had some in my house the whole spring and summer and fall, even until the frost. Some beautiful blue cap oysters. And so mushrooms are definitely a good avenue. And another garden that everybody in this room can definitely have is sprouts. Sprouts in their homes. You don't need soil. You don't need light. You just need love and some water and care and some songs sometimes. And so that's the easiest. That's like the easiest form of gardening that you could possibly have. Very simple and very energy efficient because you don't need to cook anything. And then I don't know if anybody does any sprouting of like wheatgrass or any sunflower seeds that you put in the soil. Does anybody do any of that? The sunflower seeds that have the shell, and you plant them in soil and they grow in a different way than if it's the sunflower without the... And one way that's really neat is if you put a cardboard box and you put tinfoil or any reflective paper, that could definitely enhance the amount of light that comes in. So you could do that for any plant too. Any plant that you don't have enough light for, put like a box around it, cover with tinfoil, and have more reflection. Make a little greenhouse. So there's lots of possibilities, even if we don't have access to land. And this was just showing also another possibility.